Welcome back to our next Respect Project Talk. I am so honored, excited, grateful to be surrounded by these beautiful lights, these stars in the sky that surround me. They're friends, they're colleagues, but more importantly, I admire them. I look at them from a distance and I have endless respect and admiration for each of these people. Susan Lucci, Tamsen Fadal, Isaac Boots, Kelly Hugh. Unfortunately, Odelya Halevi couldn't be with us today. She has a fever and she's recovering, but we're so lucky to be here with these inspiring people to talk about being forever young, having a youthful mindset. I think so much about one quote. It is always the quote that stays with me, which is just do the next right thing, which says to me, like, how do you have this youthful mindset to just sort of address each day, like with childlike enthusiasm? And each of you, you guys inspire me so much. I'm so grateful for your time. So I just want to jump right in and ask you, like, what's your secret? Susan, I swear we were just in New York together and just sharing this time with you, celebrating the American Heart Association and doing, work like that. I look at you from a distance and think, you're just so young, so inspiring. I mean, were you always like that? Were you the kind of person in your 20s that was just like, just free and happy? Because you just always are smiling and laughing.
Well, thank you was such a lovely question. Thank you very much. I will say that I have been a happy person by nature since I was a little girl. I was happy, and I was lucky to be happy in my adult life, and I think a lot of it came to be because my personal life was in such wonderful shape. I was happy in love, and knew how lucky I was, and I was doing what I wanted to do. I got to be an actress, those were my dreams when I grew up. And you mentioned American Heart Association and gratitude, and those two things have come into play more recently. I am more vocal about my gratitude, and I have, to be perfectly honest, prayed for guidance that I do the most with the platform that I have.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'm not J-Lo, but it's a good platform, and I just wanted to, spread what I can in good faith and help where I can.
Yeah.
And so there's good. You were saying do the next right thing. It feels good if you are grateful, so blessed, and then get to pay some of it forward.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I feel like, Picasso said it took a lifetime to learn to paint like a child.
Oh,
And
that's wonderful.
I guess objectively, I look at you guys and I see this childlike enthusiasm, because it's like, no matter what you're doing, whether it's acting, no matter what's happening with your careers, it always feels fresh. Like you guys are not just beautiful to look at, you're beautiful inside and it radiates out. And I don't know, I guess, the people that seem most interesting to me are the ones who just they regenerate, like with this like incredible vibrancy, and you each have this quality. I mean, Tamsen, I'm curious with you, especially talking about menopause, sort of, drawing people's attention to demystifying getting older, right? Because you've never looked more beautiful than you do right now, but you've always been exquisite. But it just comes from inside, this commitment to helping others, like Susan said. Talk a little bit about, what your discovery is with that topic and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I lost my mom at an early age, so that was never a conversation that we had. And so when I came into menopause, and it really affected me at work, and I thought, I am petrified. I felt like just a fraction of who I was, and I didn't know what to do or who to talk to. So I did start talking openly about it, and then I realized everybody was saying the same thing. And I feel like today I can't go somewhere and not start the conversation and have somebody else really relate, understand it, and become very vulnerable and raw, because this is not anything we talk about. And we've, Elisabeth, you and I have talked about the fact that you kind of can't separate things, right? This is a part of who we are as women, and how we can it can make our confidence take a hit. And at a time when this, we've worked really hard to be here and to be healthy and to be at this point in our careers. And so I want to be able to appreciate it and help women who don't understand what's going on, like I didn't. And, there's so many of them. There's going to be over 1 billion women across the world in menopause by the year 2025. Like, those are real numbers. Every woman's going to go through it. Every woman's going to, have one or two of those symptoms. And so, I kind of want to be there to hold her hand if they don't have somebody like I didn't.
Yeah, no, I really, that was one thing I specifically wanted to talk to you guys about, because each of you gives back so much to society, humanity, and a nonprofit, all of these things. And Isaac, just wanting to ask you, specifically what Tamsen was talking about, which is, I don't know, your cup runneth over, you know what I mean? I know that your career exploded during COVID, but also, your like intentions and around your purpose. Also, you did some incredible philanthropic work during that time. So just talking about how inspiring it is to give back to others and how it really like fills your cup. Can you talk to us a little bit about the work that you did and the commitment you made?
Well, I think Susan really hit the nail on the head with gratitude, right? It comes down to being grateful and grateful for what you have. And when you really are filled with humility and gratitude, giving back is like second nature. I feel very lucky that I was able to do what I do during a really crazy time and raise over $2 million for kids in need, actual kids who needed to eat. And so, yes, it was a scary time for everyone. It was uncertain, and in many cases still is. But we were able to work out and do what I love to do, and dance and laugh and create a global community from Australia to Tokyo to Europe to all over North America to Brazil, Guam, and raise so much money for kids to eat. We worked with No Kid Hungry during the main months of COVID. And then now I work with World Childhood Foundation, which really raises awareness and helps stop child sex trafficking. And I felt, it's an uncomfortable conversation. No one ever wants to, it's not something you want to talk about at the dinner table, but it's real. It's real. And these are kids. And if you can't take care of and be aware of the safety and the harmony of children, then what's the point? What's the point of being famous or being fabulous or having money and having success? We love it. It's great. But if you can't do something that really matters with it, there's something vulgar about it.
Yeah. No,
So.
absolutely. I'm curious. I mean, this is really a question to all of you, but I'm going to go over to Kelly now, which is to say, but why you? Why do you care? Did it come from a personal connection to these causes? I mean, I know for me and Susan, we have heart disease, that we are passionate about. And so, and it's personal for both of us. But, specifically, I mean, were you raised to care about other people? I mean, is this something that happened later in life that you thought, what, I want to be more conscious of others? Kelly, let's go over to you, because you also do some great work out there.
I think I come from a family who is just very much aware. And my mom was one of these people, like if anyone ever needed anything, we have taken in so many like refugees. I remember we had like Vietnamese refugees living at our house when I was young. And I'm constantly offering my house to friends, I think because of that example. If anybody is ever in need of a place to stay, and I have had so many friends who have stayed at my place, I can't even count. But I just feel like if you have, then you have to give and you have to share. I think it's part of the connection that we have as human beings, right? And part of the connection is what makes us more alive, being connected to one another. And so I think when you are gracious and generous with what you have, it just makes you live a fuller life.
Yeah, absolutely. Tamsen, were you always so resilient? I mean, did you experience in your child? I know you just referenced your mom passing when you were young. What was the tipping point? That's kind of my question. Were you always conscious of others, or was there a tipping point where you were like, you really awakened and you thought, you know what, I'm going to just be more aware of how I can make an impact in this world?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think because I've been a journalist for two plus decades now. I've listened to other people's stories for a really a long time, and that's kind of what my driver is. I love to sit down, listen to their stories, listen to what makes them enthusiastic. And I kept seeing this common theme throughout everybody. These people that had the light that you're talking about are the people that actually genuinely cared and gave back. And they weren't doing something so they could get more, just to be famous or just to have money, like Isaac's talking about, or just to, to have something in life. They really actually gave back and cared. And those are the people that I wanted to be like. I was like, they have something special there. And then when I had always done that with regard to breast cancer, because that's what I lost my mother with. But it really was when I started coming into the space of women's health that I felt that feeling that, I don't know, it wakes you up in the morning, it gets you up in the morning, it gives you this purpose and you want to keep helping. And I've never had that reaction as a result of something successful in my career. I've never had it as a result of more money or, a great event or a red carpet, but I do have it when a woman comes up to me, and hugs me and said that I've made a difference or helped her be heard.
Yeah, no,
Oh, absolutely.
I really relate to that too. I do. I was lucky enough to be raised by a mother who, said to me, you have to give back. But when it becomes your own, when you really identify, the impact you want to make and you take ownership of that, and that's really what's getting you up in the morning, it's such a huge shift. And it is so fulfilling to really be thinking about, how am I going to make the world a better place? But I find that the people who've experienced tragedy, I mean, somehow they have this, it's like, I don't know, I had sent you guys a list of questions, and I like this thought, the cracks are where the light comes in.
Mm.
We can really allow ourselves to experience our pain. Somehow we become fuller and wiser and more compassionate to others. So I love the word gratitude, but empathy and compassion, thinking of others is like, sort of what Kelly said, really understanding what it's like to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. And so, Susan, I really, the fact that you tell everybody here a little bit about why you're working with American Heart Association and sort of your commitment to that movement.
Well, just every comment that's being made, I have to say, resonates with me so much. So 4 years ago, I had a heart event. I, like many women, and I ignored my symptoms to begin with for 1 week, and 2 weeks later I had them again, but they were mild. And the third week that I had the symptoms, I could not ignore them. I happened to be out at a boutique shopping for a girlfriend's birthday present when I felt what I could not ignore, like an elephant pressing on my chest. And I had remembered an interview that I heard from a woman who was not famous, but gave an interview many years ago on TV about how symptoms for a woman having a heart attack are often different than a man's. I had no reason to remember it. I never had a health issue. And I lost my mother when she was 104 years old. So we thought I just had all my mother's genes. In any case, I sat down on a bench at that boutique. The manager asked me if I was okay. And I said I was trying to assess that. I wasn't sure. She asked me what I was feeling. I told her the elephant on my chest. And very calmly, she said to me, Susan, my car's right outside. Why don't I drive you to St. Francis? St. Francis is one of the leading heart hospitals in the country. Talk about good luck.
Yeah.
That was right down the street. She said, I'll get you there faster than an ambulance can get here. So I got in the car with her, and the whole way there, I didn't have a cardiologist, but my husband did. He had AFib. I called his cardiologist. He said, come in, your symptoms are substantial. I went in there, and the whole way in the car, which was only a mile, but your mind goes a mile a minute. And I was thinking, this is my day off. I can't do this. I have too many things now I have to do. And besides, I'm sure my symptoms will go away the way they did. Why don't we just wait and see? I don't really need, and I don't want to bother this amazing doctor. He has patients who really need him. These were my thoughts going there. When I got there, he gave me, he decided to give me a CAT scan. And it turned out I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the one next to it. And he said he could fix it. He could put stents in. And by then it was getting sort of late at night, 9:30, 10 o'clock. And he said, or you can be first one up in the morning. And I said, well, wouldn't it be better for me to go home and come back and be up first thing 6:30 in the morning? Because your A team will be on their way in. They'll be nice and fresh. And he said, my A team is already on their way in. I said, well, shouldn't I go home and get a good night's sleep in my own bed and then come back and I'll be all fresh for the surgery? And he said, I don't think you understand. He said, you could have a heart attack at any time. In any case, he took me upstairs. He put 2 stents in, and I was discharged before noon the next day. I was told that had I not gone to the hospital, had I not acted on my symptoms,
Right.
that I would have had the widowmaker. 99% sure that I would not have woken up. Because if
Wow.
I had gone home, if I had been home and not out, I would have laid down.
Right.
I would have had some water. I would have kept thinking, oh, it'll go away. Oh, it's nothing. So when I got in the car to come home, I knew that I had a guardian angel on each shoulder that day. And by the way, the manager of the boutique also has a degree in nursing.
Oh,
Wow.
I mean, I had so many specifically good luck things happen. I called my publicist from the car. My husband was driving me home, picked me up, drive me home. And I said, Jessica, I know that I can't pass on the specifics of the good luck that I experienced
Right.
in these last 24 hours, but there are takeaways about listening to your symptoms, about knowing that women's symptoms are often different than a man's, by acting on your symptoms, and very, very importantly, by putting yourself at the top of your to-do list.
Yeah.
You know, we take care of our children, we take them to the pediatrician first thing, we are advocates for the people we love, but we are not on that list. And while it's wonderful and important to do all those other things, we have to include ourselves on that list. And so that was my message. And I just thought, if I can just, maybe one woman, like I heard that woman's interview a long time ago, if some woman will hear my story in contemporary times now, maybe it will help to save even one woman. And
Wow.
so I understand what you've been saying, how gratifying it is. You know, Tamsen, you were saying if a person comes up to you and says that you influence them to do something good for themselves to save their lives, and what you're doing with the food, I mean, hunger, you can't do anything else if you're a child and you're hungry, you're so distracted. And then you're not being fed, you know,
Exactly.
you're not developing. All of you are doing such good work. I'm late to the party of empathy, I have to say. This experience helped me, and I wanted to get to that place. I could do it when I was playing a role, but my own life was so crowded with schedules and the doing of what I was doing and raising my children that I had empathy for them and for my family, but I witnessed wonderful human beings who had empathy for other people who weren't in their family. And I really wanted to know what that felt like. And so I was late to the party, but I do feel that so much now. And it does, as you've all said, you know, you wake up in the morning and you just feel so much more connected, and you feel such an opportunity to do something good with the blessings that you've been given.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really, you know, it's interesting, you know, really listening to each other, really hearing each other's stories and spending that time to allow each of you here right now, but just in general, really to hear and see people, to inspire you to, you know, to feel stronger in your own life, to be more, more inspired to, like, this conversation, the Respect Project really came out of, my desire to tell the truth on behalf of each other. So if I could invite incredible people to come together for 1 hour to share, like, how do you do it? Life is challenging. Life can be hard. Life is beautiful. And I would imagine each of you are people that, exclaim at the beauty of life and celebrate and have fun and all of those things. But there's also big tipping points in our lives when we become more conscious people, and to share that and why and how we got to be that way, hopefully encourages other people to fight another day, to feel strong, to hopefully wake up tomorrow more resilient, more inspired, and then throw a hand back to somebody else behind you and lift them up. That was the intention of these conversations. So I just want to say thank you so much for just, sharing your stories. That's really, Tamsen, you were talking about that, how important it is to you to hear women's stories and to share in that and to support each other. So I'm just curious a little bit, Isaac, if you could share with us, how have you become so resilient in your life? What is your background? Just curious, kind of who you are and how you came to be.
Well, I think it's really interesting and beautiful and inspiring that I'm on this panel with you incredible women, because my life and any shred of success, and I've said it many times before, is the result of the women in my life. From my grandmother, who really was sort of the only unconditional source of love for me as a kid, to my mother, who I had a very contentious relationship with, but she taught me so much. She gave me drive, and she really prepared me for moving from a small town in Hawaii. Kelly, I know you're from there too, right? Yes. I'm from Waimanalo, which in the 80s, I was born in 80. Waimanalo was not what it is now, so it was a very different life, and we grew up on food stamps, and it was very, very tough. But I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it, because now that I've been able to realize so many dreams, whether it's, moving to New York when I was 17 and dancing on Broadway for 12 years and shows like West Side Story and Mamma Mia, and here I'm working with legends like Liza Minnelli and Bernadette Peters, and just women that I idolized, dancing with Madonna, who she was like, Jesus Christ to me as a young gay boy, doing paddle turns on the beach. She was like, so to realize all those things, and then and choreograph, the Grammys and American Music Awards, and work with, again, incredible women, right? And then be able to offer Torch on Instagram to an even wider audience, and have the support of incredible women, people who aren't in the industry, and from Vanessa Hudgens to Faye Dunaway, and all ages, and a grandmother in Tokyo, and a frontline worker in Florida. And I think that all of it really is a testament to the resilience, the strength, and the empathy of the women in my life. And I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I'm able to do what I do and have that support, and always remember the little boy that I was.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So whatever blessing comes, whatever fabulous thing comes, my first thought is there is a sense of wonder still.
Mm.
And that there is a little boy, that there's a little girl, there's a little kid out there that was like me, that success or Hollywood or New York was like Oz. It was not not tangible.
Not everybody wakes up on the sunny side of the street, you know what I mean? And it's like my
No.
child, for instance, struggles with, depression, and we've talked about this. She said to me, well, it's easy for you, you're always happy. But I had to say to her, let me unpack that for you real clear. Let me explain to you, because I didn't have a great childhood. And I experienced a lot of pain in childhood. And so I choose to be like this. I'm lucky. I don't have any issues with depression and so forth, but it's a choice. I wake up, I'm ready to rock. Like I step into each day. I'm not playing around. Like Tamsen, my mother passed away when I was in my early 30s. Susan knows all about it because we're the poster children for the American Heart Association. But this is it. This is serious, and really wanting to make each living it so fully, that's my goal. And yet I feel like going back to what you're saying, Isaac, like, I was like that as a child. Like I had that sort of naive, like enthusiasm for just, everything, like, wow, look at how green the grass is today. Wow. Like, I love these people. Like, let's have a conversation on Sunday morning, on the day of the Oscars. Whose dumb idea was that? Mine. Thank you so much for coming.
But Elisabeth, I think it's really interesting that you said in the beginning, you said something about experiencing tragedy oftentimes makes you more empathetic. And I think that's really poignant. And, not a lot of people know this, but my father killed himself on my 12th birthday.
Oh,
It was horrible. It was. But what was interesting was when it happened, instantly, I felt a visceral shift in myself that wasn't sad. And that's a conversation for my therapist. But it was a shift of, okay, you got to take care of yourself. Yeah. You have to, if you want your dreams to happen, if you want to get out of this life, this existence, you got to sort it out.
Yeah.
And whether that's, finding your passion and focusing on it, because experiencing tragedy doesn't mean that your life has to be a tragedy.
No, and taking ownership, also just about, sort of being orphaned, like you said. I mean, when it's just you, this is it's all on you, and we all want to be surrounded by love, support, community, friends, adjacent friends, we want to have I think that is really, for me, something I think about all the time. If I can honestly say I'm surrounded by love and really mean it, I'm doing great, because it's the most important thing. But at the end of the day, it is on you,
you have to love yourself.
Yeah. And at the worst and the darkest times, I still have that childlike enthusiasm. I really am celebrating life, and I gravitate towards people that also have that outlook. How do you do it? Where does it come from? For you, I'm hearing, and it's also the same for me, that it came from, nobody's going to do it for you. So you better get out there and tap dance your way to the very end and make it count, because you just don't know, especially with my mom dying young, you just don't know. You don't know when your number's up. So you want to make the most of it. But also thinking about coming from your background, how you can give back to others so that they can be inspired to fight another day, right? Because I feel like I'm surrounded by people who, we all have this outlook on life, but how can we encourage others to hang in there, to feel bright, to take some ownership of, about, kind of celebrating life and being positive. But it's easier said than done. Life can be difficult. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, do you think, because each of us is talking about, each of us has experienced tragedy and loss, but each of us by our nature, somehow we're happy human beings. And when there's tragedy around you, or there are lessons to be learned, you have to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And I don't know why some are born that way and some aren't. So, I shared that with you too. I just was a happy child. And now I realize some people probably think I'm just gushing, because I will say, oh, wow, things really, I think are fantastic. And, or something's very sad, but there's a genuine happiness in me that's been since I was a child. And I can't say that I didn't work hard for where I am, but I was feeling so lucky that I had the chance to do what I do, but nothing was handed to any of us. And,
but it's also perspective. It's like, I love this quote Russell Crowe said. He said, life is messy and I want to get it all over me. You know what I mean? It's like some people embrace everything. They just go, you know what? Excuse my French, fuck it. This is a difficult time, or tragedy has, I'm going through a difficult time, or I've lost a parent, or something, things are happening and they're not easy, but you know what, that's part of living and celebrating that. And like, what wisdom can I get from this time? And, some people really even look at the very difficult times as, great moments of great opening.
I think what it is all of us have worked through our fears, right? Our fear of whatever the blockage was to find our success, right? So coming from Hawaii, where we're like in the middle of the Pacific, so far away from everything, moving out of Hawaii was just such a big deal even, right? And you, Isaac, going all the way to New York, I don't know how you did that.
I saved
haven't
money.
figured out winter.
I saved money from 7th grade. I had a goal from the time my dad died. I was like, I need to get to New York. And I just literally saved coins and bought a one-way ticket the morning after high school graduation.
Wow. But we all took that gamble, right?
Yes.
To be where we are. We overcame that fear of rejection, and we all took that gamble in order for us to be able to succeed. And I think that's the one thing we have in common is that fearlessness of not worrying about the failure, just going for it no matter what it costs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I guess that's what I'm trying to tap into here. It's like what it like to distill it, right? With these beautiful stars in the sky who have all this fearlessness and just a beautiful perspective on, the all of the myriad of emotions and experiences you have in a lifetime. But it's like, where did that come from? This sort of ability to just free fall. David O. Russell said to me that, Susan and I have done a movie with David O. Russell, and he said, I love people who free fall, like heart open, chest open, just like go for it. And so I'm just curious. I mean, do you see yourself as fearless, Tamsen? Or do you struggle with like having to convince yourself, okay, I'm gonna?
Oh, no, I think we all have, we have that to work through though. Like Kelly said, like, I think you have it, but then you decide you're either going to be on this side of it or on this side of it. And I don't want to be on this side of it. I want to know that I've done everything I could. And I guess, the older I get and the more that I see and the more people that I meet that have that light, I think my motto these days is live your someday today. Because, you said it early on, we're not promised tomorrow. So I don't want to have any regrets. And that doesn't mean to do something that is just makes no sense at all. But I really, if there's something inside of me to do, I try to find a way to do it. And I think that resilience makes me stronger for the next time and the next time and the next time. And it doesn't always work out perfect, but it always works out somehow.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it comes from. I think each year I feel myself getting a little bit bolder and I like that.
And the choice, I love what, you all are saying about you make a choice too. It is a choice. Not to lay down and be a puddle on the floor, but to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and take one step at a time. And I think then each feeds the next, as Tamsen was saying.
I think also the lesson is that you cannot wait for everything in your life to be perfect before you decide to be happy.
Yes.
Right? I mean, happiness comes whenever, even if things are in turmoil sometimes. There are people who just have this ability to always be so positive and find, the joy in whatever tragedy even. But that's the gift, right? Is to be able to find that even when life is not at its best.
And to be curious, you know, when you're struggling or when you're succeeding, or, you know, no matter what's going on. And that's something I really see with each of you so much. But Tamsen is especially, you know, just you have this curiosity to like always want to try something new, you know, to sort of be curious about what's around the corner, and the fearlessness to just, you know, go into it and, you know, and sort of discover it to really discover it. I think that's another quality, you know, curiosity, fearlessness, eagerness, joy, you know, celebrating life, you know, but really being interested in seeing what's around the corner. I'm curious with each of you guys, I mean, are you spiritual? Do you have deep faith? You know, like a lot, you know, so many people struggle with not knowing. You know, we are ultimately living the question. Rainer Maria Rilke was a very famous poet, and he said, we're living the question. You know, therefore we don't really know anything, and we don't really know what the end is, or, you know, it's a big, beautiful mystery, but the curiosity around that mystery for some is really exciting, and the not knowing is exciting, and they thrive in that. Do you guys feel like your curiosity kind of keeps you alive and on your toes, wanting to have new experiences?
I think that going back to the idea of gratitude, you know, gratitude, and the humility to ask for help from whether it's God or the light or a higher power or the inner voice in yourself. You know, I was raised in a very religious home, very Catholic. I was an altar boy. I went to mass like 6 days a week. Yes. And it was tough, but it was beautiful too. You know, I really learned a sense of discipline. You know, I think, and there's an innate hardworking force inside of me, I think, because of that training. And also to always be thankful, not only for the success, but for the downtimes as well. You know, and never resting on your laurels. And I think another common thread that we all have, that I see, is that we all have passion, right? And so following that passion, but sort of connecting to a higher power, to you know, the power of prayer. I mean, I pray every day, you know, and whether it's to my grandmother, or, you know, I study Kabbalah, and it's about awareness of how small we are and how big we are at the same time. You know, so I think I keep thinking about what Susan talked about, listening to your body and listening to those symptoms. I think that goes into your emotional well-being as well. And oftentimes we can put ourselves last, especially, you know, being in the fields that we are, and or we worry about, you know, schedules and you know, being on for the producers and you know, being worth your money for a contract, you know, but taking that time for prayer and for being quiet and having gratitude, I think for me is the most important thing.
Isaac, I will tell you, I'm so, you say it so articulately, and that's a beautiful thing to hear you talk about. I begin every day and end every day with gratitude, and it's, I lost my husband not a year ago. It's actually 11 months, and he really was the love of my life, and I knew how lucky I was, and I let him know always how lucky I felt. So we had a wonderful life, and the loss of him, and I was married when I was 22, so I was with him, you know, my whole adult life, and at the same time that I was devastated, and Tamsen, you mentioned on feeling less of a, I felt like half a person. I didn't think I would ever go on stage again or be in front of a camera. I couldn't even think that I'd do that. And the only thing I wanted to know is how could I have, was I there asking the right questions enough, when he was in the hospital and so on. But yeah, then I don't think I'd be sitting here if it wasn't for my faith, and at the same time, it's something to come to grips with, because such great faith and yet taken away the thing I value most in life. And
Yeah.
how do you rectify all of that? How does that all come together? But I think a lot of it is how you deal with loss, and it is a choice then that you are looking for the light, that you are looking for that resilience, looking for yourself again, who you are at your best self again, to find that again, to go forward, to be able to stand up instead of lie on the floor.
Yeah.
To make that choice that you're going to look for the joy. Is there joy?
Right. Absolutely.
Susan, I love you so much. I just thank you so much for sharing that, because I do think, a lot of this is about, how can we make the most of our life, but also how can we, like you said, reconcile like deep tragedy and loss. And I know I'm just so sorry about your loss. And I know I said it to you when I saw you last, but anyway, I just really hug you so much right now.
Well, thank you. If he had been a stinker, it would be a lot easier. But he was a good one.
Yeah,
I was at an event with Susan on, I think, Wednesday or Thursday of this past week, and I I was actually sitting there in the audience when you were up on stage, and I was thinking about your husband, and I knew you had gone through such a tremendous loss, and I was like, she is just so strong. Like, I can't believe she's just so strong. And then she came back and she was standing in the audience, and I heard somebody come up to her and say, my family has a history of heart problems. And then Susan stopped. Everyone's around her trying to do selfies and take pictures with her. And she's like so adorable in her pink dress. She looks beautiful. And she stopped and she looked at this woman directly and she goes, "You need to go take care of yourself. Like, this is really important." Do you remember that, Susan? You're right. Yeah. And she was behind me.
Anybody observed it?
Yeah, I'm listening to everything all the time, Susan.
Yes, you're a journalist. I know. You're really good.
She was behind me. And I remember thinking, like, this woman who, is an icon to so many people. And you speak out about heart disease. You are somebody that women respect, but stop. There's a room full of people, and she stopped. And this one woman was the only person she was focused on. And that's who you are, Susan. And that's the light that you're talking about, Elisabeth. And that's, that makes you real. And she didn't know I was listening. She didn't know anybody was watching. It was her and that one woman. And, it just speaks to your strength, because I know I can't even imagine what you've been through over the course of the last 11 months. And I'm so sorry for your loss, but your strength just, gives it to other people.
Well, thank you very much. I am so lucky that our friends have remained my friends, and they like to be out and about and active, and I do too. So that works. And they also make me laugh. And laughter, I think, is a very, very wonderful thing in life.
Huge. Yeah.
But it is true of you, Susan, but it's true of each of you. When I'm with you, Kelly, or Isaac, or Tamsen, or Susan, I feel like the whole world falls away, because the conversation is so focused and so present. Your ability to really see and recognize other people really makes them feel like they have value. And so I think that is really true, definitely of you, Susan, but all of you guys, so much. Talking about generosity. Did you receive generosity in your life? Have you received and I know you all give it, but I think, we're talking about compassion, love, joy, all these great things that are like our North Stars in the sky, like leading us. But generosity, each of you is very generous. And I'm just curious, in your background, in your childhoods, do you feel like you received that from strangers? Did they recognize you? Did you feel seen and heard at some of the more tender times in your life? No.
And
Not so
I
much.
would say for me, yes. And Tamsen, thank you for all those amazing things that you just said. But yeah, I mean, I had parents who I knew loved me very much, but in terms of kindness, real kindness, I remember having an epiphany about kindness. When my son was born, he was 36 hours old, and they took him to NICU unit. And the nurse in the nursery noticed he was a little bit mottled around his mouth. Well, most newborn babies have a very mottled complexion. The fact that she even saw that, and then they took him to the intensive care unit, and the nurses, the kindness that they showed to the babies, the kindness that they showed to the parents of the babies, the kindness that I experienced with them. I've written one fan letter in my whole life, and it was to the nurses in NICU for what they do for these newborn babies and for their parents. I've never seen anything like that. And that was a huge awakening to me, to receive that kind of kindness from strangers.
Wow.
Absolutely. Kelly, I see you ready to jump in.
No, I have definitely been the recipient of kindness and generosity my entire life. I think I'm just one of these super lucky people. Winning the Miss Teen USA pageant was definitely, generosity just like thrown, thrust upon me. And ever since then, I think I've just always been just so lucky. I think people, I always say, like, when I go to these Comic-Cons and these conventions and things like that, people are just bombarding you with kindness and generosity. I mean, they just want to love on you and show how much they care about your work and you as a person. And I think that if we take it in and we allow ourselves to receive that and be grateful for it, then we have that much more to give, right? It's just, there's no limit to how much kindness we can put out there. And, it's just cyclical, right? You give and you get, and you give and you get, and you spread the aloha, all over the world as much as you can, because it's endless, right?
I love that you say that, because I think that it's so important. Sometimes we don't take the time to take it in, and that's doing a disservice to the people who are giving it to us. And I love that, because I think that's something to think about. I think that it's okay to feel that and absorb it, and then, and give it back and appreciate it, and not go, no, not me. Because I think sometimes we have a tendency to do that, either out of humility, or thinking we don't deserve it, or thinking that we don't deserve that kind of, respect. And you do deserve that. I had a wonderful parents. My mom was sick for a long time, so that was a lot of the focus when I was young. But I never didn't feel love, even though they were going through that. And I think that's helped me appreciate today, and appreciate every day that we're here.
So we're going to be nearing the end of the hour. And so just to respect your time and all of that, I know I want to talk forever with you guys. I just feel like this is a love bubble. But I want to ask, like, if you could tell your younger self, your best advice at this point, what would it be? I mean, we all have lived quite a lot, but like, just, sort of break it down, the best advice you would give your 14-year-old self. Tamsen.
Oh, stop comparing yourself to other people. That does not matter. That's not going to get you anywhere. It keeps you stagnant, and, and go forward with what you love to do. But I think that comparison game I see it more and more now, obviously with social media. I see it with my 11-year-old nephew, and it scares me a little bit. So I try to, any young person, I don't have children of my own, but any young person that comes into my life, I try to make sure that they look at themselves and not everybody else.
And also, I think looking at you, especially the work you're doing with menopause, the best is yet to come. right? I mean, these are just little euphemisms, but like, it ain't over till it's over. And
No, it's not.
right, you're celebrating. I think
Something
really,
called a menopause zest. Everyone's telling me about. I'm waiting to be zestful, but they said that it comes. I'll let you know when I get there.
exactly. And Kelly, what would you say to your 14-year-old self?
14 was rough. Oh boy. I mean, I was really picked on and bullied, and that was a really, really tough age for me. At 13, there was a point where I was suicidal. I
Oh.
mean, it really got to me. But you know, things just turned around in an instant. You know, I win this pageant at 16 years old, and life just skyrockets from there. So I would tell my 14-year-old self, hang in there. Just hang in there another day, and things are going to get better for sure.
Absolutely. You don't know what's right around the corner. Isaac.
You know, I think mine is very similar. You know, I'm here. It's amazing to hear all these stories about how, you know, how you were filled with surrounded by love and generosity and kindness. And I really wasn't. I didn't really have great examples of generosity and kindness in my life, aside from my grandmother. But I learned what not to be.
Yeah.
I learned, and that's a great lesson. I'm thankful for it. I know exactly how I don't want to treat strangers. I don't want to treat myself, you know, and even treat my dogs or like my husband, you know, just like even just like the way you speak to an animal. I don't like, that's not, I don't want that, you know. And so you have to be thankful for everything in your life ultimately. And it's always better to read a book where it starts off tough rather than ends tough. Yeah, you know, so I'm thankful for it all. So I would tell my 14-year-old self the same thing. Just hang in there, keep pushing, and be very clear about who you are, and resist becoming the darkness. Resist becoming the opposite of light. And light is success. Light is happiness. Light is generosity and giving back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Susan.
Oh, I love everything that has been said. And I think it's all so important and so true and so central. For myself personally, I would tell myself not to be so shy, because it was a balance for me. It was like the elephant in the room, my shyness. So I was always like talking myself out of that. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I did believe in myself. You know, I had reason to believe in myself. I was encouraged in school and all of that. From my parents. But I agree so much too, Isaac, that you can learn from negative example too, but don't turn that negativity on yourself. I think we're all our own worst critics. And I think I took that too much to heart. So I would say, get rid of that altogether. You know, that's not going to serve you well.
Yeah.
Susan, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How does such a shy 14-year-old end up becoming an actress?
Well, it was the way I played as a little girl, making up stories and acting out all the parts. And when I did finally go out and play with the kids in the neighborhood, I got them to do that too. And my mother was really nice. She let me play in her top drawer that had lots of scarves and stuff. We could make costumes. So it was how I played. And then when I got to school, again, I thought it was just how I play. I just thought that was something I knew and nobody else. And I went to Catholic school. We weren't allowed to talk during in the cafeteria at lunch. But when I was 10 or 11 years old, the other little girls I was sitting with at the table, you know, if you can survive as a girl, 10 and 11-year-old girl, especially 11 years old, you can survive a lot of stuff. But anyway, so they were sort of whispering, oh, we're in a play. We're in a play. And you're not in that play? And I didn't know anything about it. So they were telling me that. And after we were going out to recess, where we were allowed to speak in the corridor going outside to the playground, the Girl Scout leader and her assistant came running down the hallway with a script in their hands. And they said, Susan, we've been looking for you. We want you to play Cindy Ellen in our play, in our Girl Scout play. Cindy Ellen was a takeoff on Cinderella. It was just, it's like a Disney movie, that part. I had dark eyes, dark hair, and olive skin in a town where everybody else had blue eyes and blonde hair. I was just in front of the TV to try to push my nose up so I would have one of those little turned up noses that everyone seemed to have. So for them to want me to play Cinderella, you kidding? You know, so that was the beginning. And I always felt very happy on stage and comfortable. I felt much looser on stage.
Wow.
Acting.
Yeah. I definitely identify with that as well. I think that there were deep scars from childhood of insecurity and so forth, and to perform was like total freedom. You know, it's like just, yeah, I relate to that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I just want to say thank you so much for coming and sharing your morning with me, and you know, allowing me to ask you these questions and to talk to one another. And I hope that after this talk we can share this with other people, and that it lifts them up, and that they, you know, they feel inspired to be joyful, generous, all of the beautiful words that we talked about. Thank you so much, and just keep shining your light. And thank you for being my friends and coming to the Respect Project to talk today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for putting us all together. Oh, this was wonderful. I hope this happens again. This is
Okay.
a wonderful group of people. Thank you.
Let's do it. Let's keep let's talk about childlike enthusiasm again. I love you guys. Yeah, we're very nice to
My dogs feel the same way.
I love you. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for your time. And yes, let's do a recap on this. Go, Isaac. Yes.
I do have one more thing that I have to say. It's sort of like, I have to say it, but I'm thinking about gratitude, and one of the best memories of my childhood, which was Dickensian in many ways, but some of the rays of light was Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. My grandma and I would watch Susan Lucci. I swear it, you were our favorite. Absolutely. Like my entire childhood. Absolutely. And those were some of the, she would always say, I have to watch Erica Kane and my stories. Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you for telling me that. Thank you, Isaac.
Truth.
Wow.
Well, if you guys want to connect after this, just text me. That is one of the beautiful things about doing these talks, is that I swear after every talk, I hear from pretty much everybody on the panel saying, I don't want to lose touch with that person. That was so great. And mostly they want to be in touch with each other. So these conversations have been experimental in nature, but they truly fill my cup. And so I look forward to connecting you guys afterwards. And yes,
thank you.
I love you, Susan, Kelly, Isaac, Tamsen. Thank you. Fly safe to New York. Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All the best of luck with this Respect Project.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye.